Hello everyone, welcome to our channel Knowledge of Friends. Subscribe to our channel and click the bell icon for the latest update. आज हम जो डिस्कस करेंगे वो सोशियोलॉजी की क्लास करने वाले हैं, जो कि आपका क्लास नंबर 3 है। ऑलरेडी हम 2 क्लासेस कर चुके हैं, जिसमें हमने यूनिट 1 कंप्लीट कर लिया है and unit 2 we had started in this class. We will start that, and unit 2 is your rise and development of industry. The rise and the development of industry in the terms of it we'll discuss here in the class, and hopefully it will, if it is not exceeded more than 1 hour, so we will be completing soon in this class only. So here we'll start first that the manorial or feudal system, which has been asked in this questions only, and these were the question which has been some little bit longer, but because this has been asked of many times in the examination paper of 5 to 6 10 marks respectively, so we'll go ahead with the discussion of the detail here as well. Before starting with the lecture, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe our channel, so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. We'll talk about it, that is, as I told you, about the manorial or a feudal system, so that they can ask you what is feudal system and write down the characteristics of Indian feudal system here. So we'll first discuss what is feudalism. That is your feudal system, or we can say that is your feudalism. So that what we have to talk about it here in the detail. And in this that the feudalism was loosely structured political system in which powerful lords like nobles owned large sections of land, and they divided their land into estates called that your fiefs, and which were given to the lesser lords called vassals as well, in vassals that pledged then loyalty and military support to their lords in return for this land as well. Feudalism, that was an arrangement in which one nobleman owned allegiance to another. Under this arrangement, a lesser nobleman commonly that called a vassal, and that is a swear to fight for the upper nobleman, and known as the lord as well. In exchange for the vassal's pledge, he was given a grant of the land land by the lord, and this arrangement was solemnified in a ceremony known as homage and fealty. Each person who entered into the arrangement was a member of the nobility, and the vassal himself might be the lord of the another nobleman, and the lord might also be a vassal of still another as well. At a time when a few people outside the clergy that could read and write, the obligations was bound by one solemn oath, and his words was his bond as well. Under the feudal system, the king afforded the land grants or fiefs to his most important nobles, barons, and bishops in return of their contributions of the soldier for the king's armies as well. In the same cases that we'll talk about the nobles and vassals, what were the nobles and what are the vassals, and even though we'll discuss about the peasants as well. So the nobles and vassals. So in nobles and vassals here, in this we'll talk about it, which is your that the nobles divided their land among the lesser nobility and who become their vassals. Many of these vassals become so powerful that the kings had difficulty controlling them as well. We'll talk about the peasants here. So in the terms of the peasants as well, in terms that at the lowest level of society, that were the peasant, and also called the serfs or villeins as well, where that the lord offered his peasants protections in exchange for living and working on his hand as well. So where we have a feudal system that to be characterized as follows. The first we have king, the second we have your vassals to king, which is lords. The third we have is your vassals to lords. And of course the fourth we have here, that is your peasants, that is your peasants, and that is serfs as well. So this has been your the feudal system. Now we'll talk about the characteristics of feudalism. Of feudalism. So characteristics of feudalism, if I'm talking about here from our discussions of features of feudalism, that we can have a proper idea about the various aspects of this economic system. So here the first we have, and the first characteristic we have, a simple mode of production. A simple mode of production here, that the feudalism represent a lower level of technique in which the instruments of productions are simple and generally inexpensive. The act of production is largely individual in nature. It is not the result of complex division of labor as well. The second we have is your production for consumption. In production for consumption here, the production in a feudal society is organized to meet the need of the household or a village community. Production is not meant for exchange or for the market. The feudal economy is the natural economy. Its main object is the consumption here. We'll talk about the third one, which is your political decentralization. In political decentralization here in the feudal area, that the state becomes less powerful and there is usually no strong unified central government. The most significant economic and political functions are discharged by the feudal aristocracy as well. We'll talk about the fourth one, which is hierarchical organization. In hierarchical organization here, according to the host, that is Holsuki, that titular ownerships of land is vested in members of a class of feudal, that lords and church nobles, etc. And these lords form a hierarchy starting with the king above and his vassals, and then his tenants of the successfully lower ranks as well. We'll talk about the another one which we have is your in the reference towards the fifth one, which is your the personal relationship. In personal relationship, according to the John Christley, feudalism, particularly of Europe, was characterized by a personal relationship between the lord and the vassals, between the grantor and the grantee. In Japan, this relation was so close and deep that they even spoke of the feudal family consisting of the tenants and the landlords as well. We'll go ahead with other one, which is your the sixth one, which is in reference towards which that is your based on custom. And in this that is it was an economic society organized by tradition. The tradition solved the economic problem. Tradition directed men to their task, and tradition also regulated and distributions of the social rewards as well. Now we will go ahead with other one, that what we have to discuss, which is in the terms we will discuss one by one all the characteristics of the feudalism, that we have a total 10 characteristics in the terms of it, and then we will discuss about the feudal system that we had even though discussed about it, and the differences between the feudal and the manorial system that we'll discuss here. So let's go ahead with the next characteristics which we have. So here we have a seventh one, and that we'll talk about it, which is your the changelessness here. So in changelessness, in this, that changelessness was another attribute of the classical of feudalism, as Paul Sweezy mentioned, that European village society, which characterized the feudalism, was conservative and change resisting as well. In the same case, we will be having the eighth one here as follows, which we'll talk about it as well, and that is in the same case that the eighth one we have here, which is the eighth characteristic, is absence of molestation. In absence of molestation here, that is your the under the classic form of feudalism, the transactions were mostly of the barter type, and the cash payment were rare. So use of money for exchange was very less, and product that under the feudalism did not take the form of commodity, as they mostly had a use value, and a market forces of demand and supply had very little relevance here in this system. So the feudal economy was a subsistence economy as well. We'll talk about the ninth one here as well, which is your the self-sufficiency. In self-sufficiency, that the insularity of economic life was an important feature of feudalism, and the manor that used to be a self-sufficient, each manor that produced all types of crops in quantities sufficient for its population. Intermanorial trade was very insignificant, and reductions of trade with outside world to the minimum was considered as the sign of the good management. Extreme self-reliance was that economic hallmark of feudalism as well. The 10th we talk about it, which is your the typical feudal mentality. In typical feudal mentality here, the feudal mentality is lazy, inexpert, and unprogressive. The feudal ideology is based on non-acquisitiveness and a submissiveness as well, and respect for the tradition. The motivations for that was non-economic, and feudal qualities were that aesthetic and a business life, and the emphasis is not on profit as well. Here we discussed about the 10 characteristics. As you can see, there are simple mode of productions for consumption, political decentralization, hierarchical organization, personal relationship based on custom, changelessness and absence of molestations and self-sufficiency, and as well as a typical feudal that is your mentality as well. These were the 10 here. Now we'll further discuss about the other question is that write down the difference between a feudal and a manorial system here. So here we go ahead. Difference between feudal and manorial system. So in a few difference between the feudal and manorial system, if I am talking about here in this, that the manorial system was based on the self-sufficient manorial estates and regulated the productions and land tenancies of serfs, and they had land from their lord, who could have been a king, duke, bishops, abbot, and a lesser noble. In return, they paid due in a kind service of money, and unlike the fief holders, the serfs were not obliged to provide the military assistance to their lord, and on the contrary, it was the lord who owed that military protections to his serfs as well. In talking about the feudalism, that feudalism and manorialism were the predominant landholding systems in most part of the medieval Europe, and however they cannot be used interchangeably because there were some important difference between the both landholding system, and the most important difference between the feudalism and manorialism was their concept. The first was the political and the military institutions, while the manorial system was an economic organization of the feudal state. It lacked the military character of feudalism that based on the system of plebs according to which the land was held by the vassals from his lord in return for political allegiances and military services as well here. So here we go ahead with the difference. That the difference between the two is that the manorial system was one part of feudalism, and feudalism was a bigger system than the manorial system. Manorialism is contained from feudalism in the sense that feudalism deals with multiple manor and deals with the relationship between landlords, and the descriptions of one landlord is manorialism, whereas the descriptions of many manor is feudalism. Feudalism and manorialism were the two distinct systems with several important differences here. So point of difference, we'll talk about it, and in terms of it, we'll discuss the feudalism and manorialism as well. So let's go ahead here. So that is your point of difference and feudalism and manorialism. So in this, that is point of if I'm talking about point of difference, the first we'll discuss about it related to the concept. So in terms of concept here, in feudalism that describes the legal obligations of vassals to nobles, and in manorialism, that manorial system concentrated on the organization of agriculture and a craft production. The second we have is your nature. In the nature terms, that the feudalism is a legal in character and manorialism is economic in character. Talk about the third one, the third point of difference, that is your system. In the terms of the system here, where that the feudalism is a political system and manorialism is an economic system here. Now we'll talk about more over here, which is your relationship. In terms of relationship, that the feudalism deals with the relationship between the nobles and vassals, and manorialism deals with the relationship between the vassals or the lords and the peasants or serfs as well. The next we'll discuss is your military obligation. The military obligations here, in that feudalism that comes with the military obligations, and this means that the vassals has the obligation to provide military support, and in manorialism that does not come with a military obligation, and the serf that are only expected to serve the lord, and the lord has to protect the serf as well. We'll go ahead with other one, and that's what we have to talk about it here, which is about the guild system. And in the guild system, that the question has been asked 3 times in the examination paper, which is of 5 marks. So we'll go ahead with the detailed about it, which is explain the guild system in detail. In terms of guild system, that the guild here, a group of individuals working together to improve economic and a social condition for its member, and that is your blacksmiths, winemakers, bakers, and artisans as well. The types of guilds we are talking about, that is your the types of guild. So in the types of guilds here, that is your under this stage, the 2 types of guilds were initiated, namely merchant guild and a craft guild. That we'll talk about here in the detail. The first we have is your the merchant guild, and the second we have is your the craftsman guild. In the merchant guild here, that were the associations of merchants engaged in trade in a particular locality to enforce equality of opportunity for the members of the guild, and to avoid the competition and regulate the conduct and protect their interest as well. In terms of the craftsman guild here, that was there to regulate the conduct of their member and protect their interest as well. In the terms of the craftsman guild, that a group of artisans engaged in the same occupation, example like bakers, cobblers, stone masons, carpenters, etc. that would associate themselves together for protections and mutual aid and services. The craft guild come about by increased as specializations of industry. Craftsman Guild was there to regulate the conduct of their members and protect their interest as well. In the talking about the decline of the guild system here, and the declining of a guild system where the guild suffered from many drawbacks and it did not continue along, and the guild system began to decline by end of 15th century due to the narrow attribute of guild. And the reason of the decline of guild are external causes and internal causes as well. We'll talk about internal causes of decline and the external causes of decline here in a detail. So where we go ahead. So internal causes of decline. So in the internal causes of decline here, which is that the first cause is internal cause, that is the right of its officials were not well defined. The second is there were gradual fragmentations of guilds, and the third is that the boundaries defining the right and duties of each guild that were not always clear, and this gave rise to conflict as well. We'll talk about the second one, which is your external cause of decline. So in the external cause of decline, where there was gradual rise in middlemen who played a negative role, they took control over the raw materials, and that creates a severe setback to the guild system. Where the second external cause of decline is the development of new towns without guilds. The third, the oppositions from the journeyman who developed grievances against the master crafts as well. That comes under the external cause of that is your decline here. Now we will go ahead with the detailed about it, which is we have to discuss here further, and that we'll go ahead here, which is in the terms of a domestic and a factory system. So domestic and a factory system here, we'll discuss a question that is to explain the domestic or putting out system in detail, or we can say that explain the cottage system in detail. This has been the same, and that has been asked 2 times in the examination paper of 5 marks. So I just write it down for that you are able to understand which topic we are discussing here. So domestic or putting out system or cottage system. So these were, that is explain the domestic or putting out system in detail, or explain the cottage system in detail, that is comes under in it, and that what we have to talk about it here. So here we go ahead, and in the same cases the domestic system or the putting out system in talking about it, which is that during this stage with the increase in demand, the intermediary played a vital role, where the entrepreneur gave out work to the artisans who worked in their homes. By the passage of time, the artisan faced the difficulties because of the increase of demand, and the process of finding a new tools that increases the productions was need of the art as well. The stage was set that for getting the work done by the artisans at the premises of the entrepreneur, and this was the beginning industrial activities as well. Domestic system, also called putting out system, the production system widespread in 17th century Western European, in which the merchant employee put out material to the rural producers and who actually worked in their homes, but sometimes labored in the workshops here, or in turn put out the work to other. Finished products were returned to the employers and for the payment on the piecework on wage basis as well, or the wage basis as well. The domestic system differed from the handicraft system of home production in that the workers neither bought material nor sold product. It undermined the restrictive regulations of the urban guilds and brought the first widespread industrial employment of women and children. The advantages of the merchant employer were the lower wages cost and increased efficiency due to the more extensive divisions of labor within the craft as well. The system was generally superseded that by employment in a factories during the course of the Industrial Revolution, but was retained in the 20th century in some industry as well. Notably, the watchmaking industry in Switzerland, toy manufacturing in Germany, and numerous industries in India and China. A system of manufacturing based upon a work done at home on materials supplied by merchant employers contrasted with a factory system and compare cottage industry as well. The putting out system was the productions of goods in private homes under the supervision of the merchant who put out the raw materials, paid a certain sum per finished that piece, and sold the completed items to the distant market as well. In the same case, we'll talk about it other further one, which is the decline of domestic system or a putting out system here. Decline of domestic system or putting out system. So here the decline of domestic system or putting out system here, the rise of the factories after the success of industrial revolutions that made the domestic system obsolete, and that is the role of middleman and money lenders ruined the domestic system as well. The head of the trade in the domestic system required extra funds time to time for a purchase of the raw material. The extra amount comes from the money lenders, and he usually exploits opportunity to the fullest. And the markets were expanding beyond the local community, and this brought the merchants to be a positions of functional dominance in the economy. Merchants began to make all the important decisions such as the price of labor, quality of goods produced, and price of product, etc. The middleman bought the machine and the workman worked on it as salaried employed. Many of the land cultivators and the serfs that moved to town to new production centers where the industrial revolutions has started. Now we'll go ahead further one, that what we have to discuss, what do you mean by factory system and what is its characteristics as well. So first we'll discuss the meaning of factory system, and then after that we'll discuss detailed about it, the characteristics as well, which has been asked 4 times in the examination paper of 5 marks. So we'll go ahead with the discussion about meaning of factory system. So here in the meaning of factory system that we talk about it, in the same cases that the word factory eludes a precise definition but describes a type of production facility sharing a certain characteristics. In factories, if I'm talking about here, that here in the same case that in factories the employer owners assembled power machinery, raw materials, and a large group of wage workers under one roof, and then coordinated this assembly to apply human and mechanical energy to the raw material in order to produce goods at low cost for the market sale as well. In the same cases that the factory system was a new way of organizing the labor made necessary by the development of machines which were too large to house that here in the workers' cottage, and furthermore that the efficient use of the new machines required that many of them be installed together where they could all be driven by the same power source. Therefore, the workers' homes become separately located from their place of work and all brought together under one roof, and it was considerably easier for the factory owners to supervise and closely regulate their worker as well. In the same case, the ruthless competitions between owners, capitalists that motivated them to reduce the cost and maximize the productivity in every way. This meant that imposing long hours, low wages, and unsatisfactory, even the dangerous working conditions upon the workers. It also meant employing child labor and a woman labor, that because the wage were lower and the work to be done often required a little skill as well. We will go ahead with further one, which is that is in the same cases for that is the 19th century factory system. The 19th century factory system. So here in the 19th century factory system, that the factory system revolutionized the manufacturing because it allowed that product to be made faster than ever. And however, there was also a negative side of to factories, and because many companies did not care about the safety of their workers throughout the industrial revolution, both that critics and champions of the factory system debated over the safety of factories as well. We'll talk about the advantages of mass productions and employment, and disadvantages, that is your dangerous working conditions and low that is a pay here. So that we'll discuss here. The advantages, which is your mass production and employment. So mass productions and employment here, that the introductions of factories was the beginning of mass production. Before the industrial revolution, that most families had to produce their own food and clothes, and factories that made things easier because the families could now buy all their goods and instead of making them. And another pro of the factory system was the creations of thousands of jobs, and although the several of the jobs created were not very desirable position, workers still went home with a paycheck. And that is every though there were many obvious disadvantages to the factory system of the 1800 factories did make a lot of things easier. We'll talk about the disadvantages here as well. The disadvantages is the dangerous working conditions and low pay. Dangerous working condition and low pay. So in this, that the two biggest problem with the factory system were dangerous working conditions here itself, and that is and very low pay. Women and children would routinely work that at 50 hours a week and earning about 10 cents an hour. So we are in the same cases, that is earning about 10% are here, that 10 cents an hour, and some companies would not let their workers leave until they are searched for the stolen goods. And to keep the workers from the sneaking out, the employers would lock all the exits as well. And these conditions proved dangerously. And when a fire started in the Triangle Shirtwaist factory in a company in New York City, that the only fire precautions was a 3 bucket of water in one corner of the building. The workers, mostly women and girls between the age of 16 and 23, and were unable to get out as well. That is the dangerous working conditions and low pay as well. That is the disadvantages, and the advantages is your mass productions and employment. Now we'll discuss about the characteristics of a factory system here. Characteristics of factory is system that the entrepreneur established the factories and employed large number of workers, and this led to the emergence of the two distinct classes, that is that the capitalist class and working class as well. The capitalists were strong and the workers did not get fair deal. The feature of factory system that may be summarized as under like large scale production, mechanizations, automation, management information system as well. Where in the same case the specialization, standardization, growth of industrial area, expansions of international trade, research and development, and competitions as well. So where we'll go ahead with reference to all these things that we'll discuss about the characteristics, and that is the first we'll discuss about the mass production. In terms of mass production here, that the factories in the modern times that are engaged in the productions for market and much wider than those served under the old domestic system, and the productions of the goods on a mass scale is therefore the first distinctive features of the modern factory system. The second we have is your mechanization. In mechanizations, there the mass productions of goods has necessitated the use of the costly machine with a high degree of efficiency and precision. Employment of machinery has reduced the workers and positions to that of the mere operators. His manual skills has less significance now. The third we have is your standardization. In standardization, that the employment of expensive machinery for the mass production has naturally led to the standardizations of product, and the product no longer bear the stamp of workers and a personal attention, and that is artistic talent as well. All product of the particular variety or lot are more now identical and interchangeable because they are produced with highly specified and accurate machines as well. The D we talk about it, which is your aggregation. In aggregation here, in this that the aggregation refers to the increase in the size of industrial establishment and the concentrations of industrial power. Mass productions of standardized machine-made goods necessitated an increase in the size of the premises and the staff of the industrial establishment. Besides, the ownership of industrial unit passed on a large that and powerful joint stock companies which collect their capital from a large number of people rather than an individual or a few partner. Later on, the industrial work world here that came to be controlled by powerful group of large and small companies as well. We'll talk about the E1, that is the fifth one, is the changes in the industrial scene. So changes in the industrial scene here, that the changes in the size of market and the complex consumer needs that led to increase in the scale of business operations. Large scale business is the order of the day. The technology has started playing a significant role, and it has become so complicated that only the qualified people that can handle it. People have to be employed in such large numbers in the factory that only trained people can handle their recruitment and management. Finance and marketing function that equally have become complicated, and only the competent people that can handle it. Workers have also got organized themselves into the union to protect their interest as well. In the same case, that to protect their interest against the management, giving rise to industrial disputes, which also requires careful handling. In view of its welfare responsibility, the state has also started interfering in economic activities. All these have made business and its management a highly technical, specialized, and complicated activity. The management of business is fast becoming a professional job, and in calls for expertise, know-how and skill guided by the responsibilities of the business enterprises to the owner, government and society at large. Now we'll go ahead with further one that what we have to talk about it, and which is the impact and causes and consequences of industrialization. So impact and causes and consequences of industrialization that we deal with it, which is we'll discuss the question that has been asked 8 times in the examination paper, which is of 6 marks. Write down the causes of industrialization and also discuss the consequences of industrialization. So this is a sort of a long topic, but we'll discuss here the factors as well, so in a short way. So that has been asked only this of 6 marks, so we'll talk about as much as it concluded here. So we'll talk about the causes of industrialization as well. Causes of industrialization. In the causes of industrialization that we talk about it here in this, that the during period of 18th and 19th century, there were agricultural revolutions, and during that period English scientists invent new machines for productions also. There were the inventions of machines, high migrations of people from villages to cities that contributes a lot of industrialization, where the main factor which gave the rise of industrializations, the factors we'll talk about it. So that the factor we have as follows. The first we have is your plentiful natural resource. Plentiful natural resource. In this, there are being divided into 3. The first is your abundance of forest. In abundance of forest here, that the cheap resource for building material. The second part of first one which we have, which is your large supplies of water. Large supplies of water here, that the vital source for the human life, source for the power for business and shipping industry. The third we have is your coal, iron, copper and silver. So here in this, that the iron, renovation, stronger, better quality iron, fuel source, tools, electricity and money. The second we'll talk about it, which is your stable agricultural society. In a stable agricultural society here, that the agricultural revolutions improved the food supply and quality, that created a strong base for industrialization. The third we have is your entrepreneur. In entrepreneur, there are people wanted to make money through new ways and opportunities. The fourth we'll talk about it, which is growing population. In growing population here, that the population growth will cause an increase of demand, where we can say that more people equals to needed goods equals to growth of industry. The next we have is the fifth one that we talk about it, which is the fifth cause of industries here. We'll talk about it, which is your fifth one here, that is your improved transportations as well, that what we have to talk. So here we go ahead, and that is improved transportation. So in improved transportations here, that is a better, faster and a cheaper here, that the transportation and that is your railroad business booms as a result, and where we talk about like increased demand equals to increased supply. So here equals to increase of shipping needs. That will go ahead with further one, that is your the sixth one, which is your new inventions. In new inventions here, that the inventions of locomotives, that is your rail or road, that iron, spinning jenny, steam, engine, and boats, etc., that contributed to industrialization, and new inventions help produce goods more efficiently. That patent become common as well. That talking about the seventh one, which we have, is your high immigration. In high immigration here, that as people immigrated, some immigrants were skilled in trades that would help industry grow, and unlike workers provided the cheap labor here, and for that more people equals to more worker, more workers. Now we'll go ahead with other one, which is your eighth one, and that is relatively free society. In relatively free society here, that the government usually exhibits that your laissez affairs, like let people do what they want, and economy regulated itself, and ideas circulated freely as well. We'll go ahead with other one, which is your ready market. In the terms of ready market here, that ships could deliver and transport. But next, the 10th we talk about is investment capital. In investment capital here, that the economy thriving equals to increase of business profit, which is economy thriving equals to increase of business profits. The next we have is your which is your 11th one, and that is your government allowed fencing of government allowed fencing of lands. So in this, that peasants now needed work after being kicked off private that your farmland. Now we'll go ahead with other questions as well that we talk about it here, which is write down the cause of industrialization. So here we go ahead with other one, which is we'll discuss about write down the causes of industrialization, and also discuss the consequences of industrialization, which has been asked a different examination paper of 10 marks, and the same question, the other question in the same topic that they had asked you about it, which is examine the impact of industrializations on religions and morality in India. So that we'll discuss about it, which is the consequences of or impact of industrialization. Consequences or impact of industrialization. So here the consequences or impact of industrializations that we discussed here, that is the industrialization has affected the society in every respect, and the customs and traditions, the fashions and manner, the way and mode of living, and all have been deeply influenced by industrialization. The effects of industrializations are to be discussed here, which is we'll discussed about it, and that is your impact upon marriage and family. So impact upon marriage and family here, in a traditional India, marriage was considered a continual that union between a man and woman. Marriage was said to made in heaven, and was that sanctified by God, and was a way to attain salvation Furthermore, arranged marriages and child marriages were common here. With the coming of industrialization, however, they are applicable change, and marriage has been reduced to a social contract that can be broken anytime. So people are marrying outside their religion and caste, and love marriages have become more common here, where the divorces are common, and many peoples have adopted to remain singles all their lives. Children are no longer educated in homes but in school, and higher age of marriage here, where in the same cases that increased the practice of non-marriage and increased practice of love marriage and breaking up of joint families and nuclear family, which is a small family, and that disintegrations of family and the role of the woman has increased, and women are considered equals to men in a family, and old traditions or customs have been rejected as well. Here we go ahead to discuss about the impact upon the caste and class. Impact upon caste and class. So in impact upon caste and class, that what we'll talk about it here, where the social life in an ancient India revolved around caste, and people worked, lived and married people of their own caste. Young people choose professions based upon their caste and class as well. With the coming of industrialization, however, things have changed. People are working, living and marrying outside their caste and relation, and children of lower class parents are attending the prestigious colleges and are choosing high-paying profession, thus moving up in a social ladder. Hence, India is becoming an open-minded society, and a caste and creed are slowly melting away and losing importance. So we talk about it, and which is all about here, and that is your breaking down of caste system, reductions of influence of Brahmins, and abolitions of system of caste-based function, and the divisions of labor based on specialization, practice of intercaste marriage as well. We'll talk about the impact upon that is your stratification. Impact upon stratification. So impact upon stratifications here, that is the industry has been satisfied based upon occupation, education, income and birth. In the olden days, a son of Brahmins would grow to enjoy the prestige of his parents, and in the industry, however, a son of manager would not grow up to become a manager but must first get all the educations and training. And in the area of education, science and technology that is based on the degree are considered more superior to literary degree as well. And a person's social status is measured in terms of his or her income, and now by what social class they were born into. Furthermore, people of the lower class are rising higher and higher in the social ladder, and a person's birth that can no longer determine his or her caste or social class, that only his or her educations and income that can determine those factors. We'll go ahead with other one we'll discuss about it, which is an impact on religion and morals. Impact on religion and morals. So here in the impact on religion and morals here, that with the coming of the industrialization, the religion is seen as an outdated belief system. Science is in oppositions to religion, and people who reason based on science are seen as modernized. And recently, however, the science and religion are seen as different sides of the same coin. Industrialization is closely related to the science and technology. Religious influences on the industrialized society intervening, and people of different religion backgrounds work and live together in a peace. The morals and ethics stem from religion, and with the weakening grip of religion on society, the moral of ethics are also departing from the society or changing altogether. For example, abortions are that are commonplace, and as sex before marriage is also common here, because have the rational and materialistic outlook towards the life. due to the loosening social control. There have also been increased in crimes as well, like increase in individualism, increase in crime rate, and loosening of the social control as well. This is an impact on religion and morals. Next, we'll talk about it, which is impact on entertainment. An impact on entertainment, if I'm talking about here, in this, that in the olden days the people lived in joint families, and there would be a dozen adults members and a dozen children. Entertainment in joint family was simple. Today, however, families have gotten smaller and all adult members are employed, so entertainment has become industrialized and can be purchased with money. New forms of entertainment include like cinemas, bars, clubs, television, casino, etc. We'll go ahead with further one, that what we have to talk about it, which is explain various limitations and obstacles to industrialization in India. Various limitation and obstacles to industrialization in India. So in this, the various limitations and obstacles to the industrialization in India, there are many dangers of industrialization, such as the gas leakage tragedy that happened in Union Carbide factor of Bhopal, and to be avoid such strategies in future. Strict security regulation that should be imposed, and sufficient compensation should be given to the victims. And beside the above hazards, industrialization is facing certain problems which are discussed ahead. So we'll discuss about one by one, which we have near about 8 and 9 here as well. And this is the last question of the session as well that we'll end up with. So here the first we have is a lack of good infrastructure. Lack of good lack of good infrastructure here in this, that the sorrow state of India infrastructure poses a major difficulty for doing business in India in peasant time. Also, lack of good road network and a rail network is an obstacle to industrialization in rural areas as well. The second, we have existence of corruption. And existence of corruptions here, that the major threat to India government is corruption, and the corruption is accepted by everybody and is present at all level in the government sector. Even the liberations of economy cannot curb corruption because it has become too deep rooted as well. We'll talk about the third one, which is your tax problems. In the tax problems here, that India tax system is the one with a high differential tax rate falling on a narrow base, and the income of the government is constructed by an ineffective taxation system as well. Talk about the fourth one, which is management of public sector. Mismanagement of public sector. Mismanagement of public sector. So in mismanagement of public sector here, the another big problem that faced by the industrializations in India, inefficient public sector, and in spite of attaining a substantial expansion during the planning period, the performance of public sector enterprise remained all along very poor, and a good number of such enterprises are incurring hugs losses regularly due to its faulty pricing policy and a lack of proper management that necessitating huge budgetary provisions every year. Thus, the public sector investment failed to generate a required surpluses necessary for the further investment in industrial sectors of the country as well. We'll talk about the other one, which is your fifth one, is your financial sector. In financial sector, in order to counter economic changes, India financial system still cannot efficiently mobilize and arbitrate capital. The liberalizations of insurance policy has been hindered, and India banking that structures still remain and that inconsistent with the main state-owned banks that carrying a bad loans amounting to 15% to 25% of this total area. The other we talk about it, which is the sixth one, and that is the performance of the agricultural sector. Performance of the agricultural sector. In this, that the industrial development in India is very dependent on the performance of the agricultural sector. Thus, the poor performance of the agricultural sector resulting from natural factor is also the another important factor responsible for the industrial stagnation in the country as well. There we'll talk about the other one, which is your agriculture. In terms of it, which agriculture provides not only the raw material and that your food stuff, but that is your also generate demand for the good produced by the industrial sector, and thus this poor performance of the agriculture retards the development of the industries in India as well. We'll talk about the eighth one here, which is your the Indian labor market. In Indian labor market here, in this that the privatizations of India largest public sector and the other reforms have been muffled by the politically powerful labor union, and India labor market needs to be flexible in order to make its economy more productive as well. The ninth we have is a lack of skill and inefficiency of employee. Lack of skills and inefficiency of employee. So in this, that the country has been facing the problem of dearth of technical and efficient personnel required for the industrial development of the country. In the absence of the properly trained and skilled personnel, it has become very difficult to handle such highly sophisticated computerized machineries necessary for the industrial development of the country. Inefficiency and insincerity of those personnel engaged in industrial sector has been resulting in a huge wastage of resources of the industrial sector as well. So here we had end up with this, and we had even to completed that is your unit 1 and unit 2 itself. Unit 2 in class this we had completed the whole unit here, and hopefully in the next coming class we'll start it with unit 3rd, and surely we will be completing soon as well that as well. So first of all, it's a huge request from my side to all the viewers, please go through with the subscribe button, and please like, share and subscribe our channel, so that many and maximum people can get the information at once, and even you can also enjoy the video as well. In the terms of it, if I'm talking about in terms of sociology, we are dealing with the sociology, and as I told you about unit 1 and unit 2 we had covered up here itself, so you can go through with the subscribe button. And other than that, we are dealing with reasoning here, which we had completed your verbal reasoning, and we had started with non-verbal reasoning, where we had covered up the series part and the analogy topic as well. And in the same case, we are dealing with a quantitative aptitude, where we are discussing that as well. In quantitative aptitude, if I'm talking about the quantitative aptitude, we had started with arithmetic ability, we had covered up the numbers on operations and SCF and LCM of numbers that we had started with. So you can go through with that, you will find out each and every video here. And first of all, in terms of the sociology, if I'm talking about, we are dealing with the 5 units here, where we had covered up the first unit and the second unit. In the first unit, we had covered up the industrial sociology, the name of the unit, that is your nature, scope and importance of industrial sociology, social relations in industry, social organization in industry, bureaucracy, scientific management and human relation. In unit 2, which is your rise and development of industry, where we had covered up that is the early industrialization, types of productive system, the manorial of the feudal system, the guild system, the domestic corporating out system and the factory system, the characteristics of the factory system, causes and consequences of industrialization, obstacles to and limitations of industrialization as well. In unit 3rd, which will start with the next coming class, where we have to completed the industrialization in India, which is your industrial policy resolution 1956, and science, technology and innovation policy of India 2013. As unit 4 we have to cover up, which is your contemporary issues. In this we have to discuss the grievances and grievances handling procedures, industrial disputes, causes and strikes and lockouts, preventive machineries of industrial disputes, schemes of workers, participation in management, works committee and collective bargaining, bipartite and a tripartite agreement, code of discipline, standing orders, labor codes and industrial tribunals as well. In unit 5th, we'll discussing about visualizing the future, where we cover up the models of industrializations, and that is collectivist, anarchist, free market, environment, etc. The cultural issues, consumer society and sociological concern as well. So where we'll end up with this sociology. You can please go through with the subscribe button and please like, share and subscribe to our channel, so that many maximum people can get the information at once, and even though you can also enjoy the video as well. So thank you, hope you enjoy this video. If you like this video, please give a thumbs up and give a suggestion on the comment box. Thank you.